is everyone today? I'm trying to adjust this. Ooh, so you don't get the glare. Oh, how's that? That'll work. If I block that window with my big head, that'll work, right? So how you doing? Life starting to feel normal yet again? Almost, kinda. The question is, are you excited to kinda go back to somewhat of a normal, our new normal, or not so much? I mean, I found this time has been fun. Hi, Brenda. Hi, Sandy. Brenda, how's work? You went back, is it good? Hi, Jen. Well, so today, friends, we've done 5 rhythms so far. Hi, Danita, it's been too long. Feels like forever. So this will be our 6th rhythm. It's been an interesting season, hasn't it? I hope you're still sticking to all these other rhythms we've worked on, because I know I am. It's not easy, but it's starting to feel a little bit more normal for me, and it's refreshing and enjoyable. The most challenging one for me is kneeling and praying. I'm just being honest, to kneel and stop long enough. And I'm getting better with it, and it's starting to feel like a habit, and I really am enjoying it. It's refreshing. It's good for me. So our rhythm for today, are you ready? I'll give you a hint. It's the thing most people have talked about. You've probably seen more memes and silly things on Facebook than anywhere about this topic. Are you ready? Hi, Jane. It's food. It's not food in general. I'm not giving you a diet to do. I'm not telling you what to eat or not to eat or when to eat or how to eat, okay? So just bear with me for a minute here. I want to teach us something in reference to food, all right? This is something that I have thought and said over years of time and kept thinking, I'm going to study this more. I'm going to figure this out. There's something to this. There's more to this than what we see. And I have read some books in the last months, and I've been like, oh, there it is. There it is. So I'm going to share it with you. Okay, so food. Are you ready? Do you realize that we as people need to eat regularly? We got that, right? We all know that. We feel it. We're not just hungry bodies. We're not just machines that need fuel, but we're hungry souls. And we crave more than just what food can fulfill. We crave something that delights our soul more than just a piece of bread with peanut butter and jelly on it. Do you realize the Bible is loaded with references to food? And as soon as God creates the world, the very first thing we see in chapter 3 of Genesis is related to food. Eve is tempted. Now the food is not the sin. There's a whole lot of theological stuff going on there, but the serpent uses food to get her to sin. Hi, Shauna. Are you back from Florida? I wanted to go with you, and you didn't invite me. I'm really sad. Also, if you go to the very end of the Bible, Revelation 19, we have record that we are going to participate in the biggest feast of all time, called the Marriage Supper of the Lamb, for those who know Christ and have followed him. And many theologians believe that that feast, that dinner, will last 1,000 years. And at that time, just throwing this out to you, is that phone call. We'll have glorified bodies at that time. We won't even really be hungry. And yet God finds it important that we share a meal together. Isn't that interesting? You know, Jesus refers to himself as the bread of life over and over again, more than once. And all 4 Gospels record the Last Supper. There's paintings of the Last Supper. We hear about the Last Supper. And the very last thing Jesus tells his disciples before the cross is he's like, I want you to do this and remember me. And the this he's talking about, he could have picked something mystical. He could have picked something magical. He could have picked something crazy. Climb the mountain on your hands and knees. Get all the way to the top. Pray to me and remember me when you do that. But he didn't. He picked something simple and ordinary, and it was food. And he picked the two most accessible and ordinary food that they had at the time, which was wine, or we would say grape juice. Wine in the Bible times, that word referred to any part of the grape and the vine, and the bread. So he used the two most common ordinary things. And he said, hey, disciples, this is what I want you to do as you remember me, is eat. Isn't that fun? Now, just hold on. I'm going to tell you what the rhythm is. Just hold on with me. Let me show you something else. Food, our need for food shows us something very profound, okay, and deep. There are three things. First of all, it shows us our dependence on God. That we actually need something outside of ourselves to survive. We, in and of ourselves, are not sufficient. I cannot go without eating and drinking. I have to have something outside of myself. I prefer it to be chocolate, but I can't always eat that, right? We are created to hunger because we were made to feast on God's generosity. And being hungry is actually a good thing. God created our bodies to be hungry. The second thing our need for food shows us is that we need each other. Despite the fact that our modern world disguises how we get food to our table, and we're not the agrarian culture that we used to be, where I'm not reaping the wheat that I sowed, but I can go to the store and buy the bread already done. But it shows us that it's impossible to survive without others. From planting to harvesting to preparing, we need each other. If I had to rely just on me, I can barely keep a succulent alive, let alone plants and gardens. That's just not my thing. And I need other people to help in that area. The third thing our need for food shows is that we need this created world. We live in a web of mutual sacrifice. So whether we eat meat or whether we're eating a plant, I want you to realize that everything we eat shows that something had to die for us to live. Isn't that interesting? When I studied that and realized, I was like, I don't think that's a little detail that God overlooked. I think he very clearly knew exactly what he was doing, that something, whether it be a corn stalk, it had to die in order for me to eat it and live. So our ongoing daily life depends entirely on the sacrifice of other lives for our behalf. And there's an entire industry out there that would like us to believe that our chicken quesadilla is just a commodity, that it's just fuel, our bodies are just machines, eating is really an inconvenience. I mean, it's fun, but it really gets in the way of life. And our culture puts busy schedules above food, and we try to fit our food around our schedules. How many times do we drive through and eat on the go? Nothing wrong with it. It's just very frequent because our schedules become more important and dictators of our life than eating. And this culture of busyness that we've developed and that we live in creates a solitary feeling in all of us. And it teaches us that our accomplishments and the things that we're doing are actually more important than the time to stop and eat. And to stop and eat is actually a luxury. It's not a necessity, it's just a luxury, is what our culture teaches us. But we see food as a commodity and ourselves as consumers. And our primary concern when it comes to meals is that it's cheap, that it's convenient, that there's plenty of it, and that it requires very little of us. Think about it. I mean, with our modern world and all that we have, I sure like pulling out a chicken patty or chicken nuggets from the freezer. I'm so glad I didn't have to go chop the head off the chicken and pluck the feathers off, because I don't think I could do it. But our culture has ingrained this in our thinking. But I want you to stop and think, how many times do we have record in the 3 years that From Jesus' first miracle to the time of the cross, how many times do we have record that he ate? Plenty. He ate with Mary and Martha. He said, Zacchaeus, come out of that tree. I want to go eat with you. He was eating when the woman came with the alabaster box. There's verses in the Gospels that say that people referred to Jesus as a glutton. Not because he was obese, but because they saw him always eating, going into different homes and eating with people. So Jesus was a man who ate often and ate with others. So this sixth rhythm that I'm going to give to us is this one thing: one meal with others every day. Don't shut me off. I know that may be challenging, and I know I'm talking to us in all different stages of life. Some of us have little children at home. Some have big kids at home, running all different directions. Some live alone. Some may be single. I understand that, but I want us to realize the importance of the way God created our bodies to eat, need food, and that our schedules don't dictate that luxury, but that we need that time around the table. We've talked about the work of the kingdom in these last few weeks, if you've been part of it, as being in the little things. And God established the home before he established a government, before he established the church. He established the home. So obviously the home had to be very important and near and dear to his heart. So the work of the kingdom begins at the table. Regardless of whether you are alone or have a big family or live with friends, whatever it is, the table is an important place. Think of all the ways that love is communicated at the table. You serve each other. You clean up after each other. You take turns. You learn manners. My kids have to say with a name, so-and-so, would you pass the salt and pepper, please? You fuss at the table a little bit. I've heard, please, can you chew with your mouth closed? Those kinds of fun things. You praise and compliment each other. You say thank you. You express gratitude. We tell stories at the table. We ask questions at the table. You listen at the table. At the table, you hear other people pray. Think about it. If you have a family, or as you grew up in a family, when else did you hear your parents pray but at the table? And if not at the table, did you ever hear them pray? Some of us may have known they prayed, but how often would you have experienced hearing your father pray, or hearing your mom pray, or hearing your children pray for that matter? There's so many things that happen around the table. And if our household routine is too busy to allow us to have meals together, then we're too busy. And we're teaching our family that busyness is more important than love and relationships. And if our kitchen is too messy to fix food, and our table is too cluttered to sit down and eat at it, don't be surprised that your children are formed lonely as they sit in front of the TV and sit in front of their computers or take their plate up to their room. It creates a loneliness and an unfulfilled feeling inside of them. So the norms of the table signal the norms of the community. And I'm not saying you have to have a 4-course meal prepared for your family. We started with our family. Everybody's big, but one thing we've started doing recently on Sunday nights, we're like, okay, every Sunday night, even when we had church, we were going to pick up pizza and come home. And we didn't sit at the table. We would sit in the living room, set the pizza and the pop, and we'd all sit around. It wasn't long. It's not long when we do it, but we're just together and we talk and we're together and we share. So I'm not saying it has to be, go pluck the chicken and bring it to the table, mama. I'm just saying to find the joy and the beauty in pausing and enjoying relationship and realizing the importance of the table. Whether you have children or it's just you and your husband, whatever it is, take those moments, okay? Not only does this teach us how to handle each other, but it also honors the limits that are actually possible in a day. God did create us with limits. We are not like him and limitless and all powerful and continue on and on and on without stopping. He made us hungry. He made our bodies need fuel to eat. He made us need that. Sure, we can keep stuffing stuff in our mouth as we walk around and continue working, but he intended for us to stop. And if we look at the life of Jesus, there's plenty of examples of him eating and stopping when he could have been busy. He didn't continue to be busy. He stopped. He even fed the 5,000 when you think about it. He stopped to feed them. And he said, everybody sit down. He didn't say, hey, keep eating as you walk on with me and follow. I'm talking, just grab that loaf of bread, grab that fish and keep following me. We're going somewhere. He said, hey, everybody sit down. Everybody pause and let's eat together. It's not about the table, okay? It's just that you're together around the table. And it's not about if you miss it on Monday and don't give up. It's not about it being the if it's the exception that you miss it, fine, but make it the normal. You know, make the table, make that time together your central focus, and it will reset your relationships. And it will keep you from feeling lonely. It will create moments to connect. And I realize it's an immense amount of work. I get that completely. But don't belittle it. There's a phrase that I read, and it said, you are creating viewpoints for the gospel. Remember that you're not just fixing chicken for dinner or tacos or putting hamburgers on the grill. You're creating viewpoints for the gospel. And view these tasks around your table as a calling. Sure, when everybody gets up, they can help put their plates away and help clean up and sweep the floor, and that's all good. But you'll probably still be the last one sitting there at the sink, finishing up the details of dinner. But don't begrudge it. Realize that this is a calling and that you're being a good steward of your home and the tools God has given you. The table isn't just to look pretty, it's to be used and make pretty in our family's hearts and those we love. And don't forget, listen, the redeemed table invites outsiders in. So if we don't, it's more than just feeding those that are closest to me. And as I was sitting on my couch the other morning, and it was pretty early, trying to decide, I thought this was the direction of this week's time together, the rhythm I really wanted to share. And I was uncertain a little bit. I'm like, you know, it's so countercultural. I don't want to give people something more to do and make it feel like, oh, here's something else to add to my list of already things that I have to do. My son came to me before he left for work and he said, hey, Mom, and he sits down and he shows me his phone, and he had a friend who messaged him on Sunday night. And that friend said, hey, tell your mom I said Happy Mother's Day. And then there were 3 things that he said I had done for him. Funny thing, he said I'd spent money on him. I don't know that I have, but I would. He said I welcome him. He said she welcomes me into her home. And the 3rd thing he said was she feeds me. So I'm just telling you, that right there in that moment confirmed with me. I was like, okay, God, the fact that he can come in my house and eat is so simple to me. And he sat at our table and prayed with us, and we hold hands when we pray. But obviously, those little moments have made an impact in his life. So I also believe that that's exactly what God wanted me to share today. So whether you're hearing this morning or you're listening to it on a replay on another day, I believe this is a message that God wanted us to share. So my challenge for you is simple. Do everything in your power to have 1 meal a day with each other at your table, with other people, whether it's your family or you invite friends. If it's lunch, don't worry about if it's dinner time. I mean, if for your family and for your life, it's easier to do breakfast and you call, hey, let's stop and meet up at Starbucks and sit down and eat a muffin together. Do that. If lunch works better for your family because you're more second shift family, do lunch. But make it a time on purpose to stop and be together and realize you're doing the work of the kingdom. So as our lives go back with so many distractions and our schedules get filled up again because there's so many options, I just want to remind you, don't forget these rhythms that we've talked about. Don't take them lightly. Hold tight. Because, and I'm not trying, like I said, to give you something more to do or to add to your already busy list. But I want you to draw closer to God and be drawn closer to each other. That's the whole purpose. And when life and culture pulls and pushes and prods us to do all these other things, stay focused on the true kingdom work. Take a deep breath and keep what's most important, most important. It's not about what you put on that table. It's just that there's something there, and it's about who's around it. So, as I leave you with this one, I just want to say too, thanks for joining me. It's been an honor. And some of you, like I see names on here, and I want to talk to all of you. And some of you I haven't seen forever. Cheryl, I love you. All that you've taught me, Cheryl. It's funny, huh? So let's not quit. And let's continue on. And let's keep the kingdom work as our main focus. And as I leave you today, I'm going to leave you with that statement I've said every time. Remember that I am one in whom Christ dwells and delights. And you are one in whom Christ dwells and delights. We live in the strong and unshakable kingdom of God. His kingdom is not in trouble, and so neither is mine. God bless you, friends. And I mean that. It's fun, and I love you guys. Have a beautiful day. Enjoy the sunshine. I hate to leave. Wish we could chat. Okay.